Hello, 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 and welcome to Qetvlive Show with your host, Miss H. I am just excited today about the show and about life, period. It's just such a blessing to be alive, to be well. I am so thankful that God has truly, truly blessed me, and I pray that all of you are doing the same thing, thanking God each and every day for just waking up, being alive, and being able to be and make a difference in someone else's life. So again, thank you for watching Qetvlive Show with your host, Miss H. Remember, I'm live here every Thursday on Vox Wave from 1:30 to 2:30 in Clinton, Maryland. If you need to call in or if you have a question to ask me, please feel free to call in at 240-719-2560. You can call in, ask me a question or ask the guest a question. We'll try and get to you as promptly as we can. But again, we're live here on Vox Wave every Thursday from 1:30 to 2:30, where we bridge inspiration with information for everyday life. So what I want to do now, because we have such an amazing show today, we have a wonderful guest today. She's a guest to some and she's not a stranger to others, but we have the lovely, wonderful Natasha Paris here today, and you don't want to miss her today. But before we bring her on, I just want to quickly give you some announcements and share some things that are upcoming events that are going on within the city and with what I'm doing and a part of. One of the first things that I want to talk about and show you is Qetvlive is hosting a mix and mingled dinner cruise aboard the Odyssey. I'm going to throw up a picture real quick for you and show you the picture of the Odyssey. We will be going on October the 6th from 5 to 8. We will be boarding at 5, but the cruise actually starts from 6 to 8. So you don't want to mix that. It's a dinner cruise where we're going to, mix and mingle with other business owners and, anyone that is interested in going. Please contact me at 240-353-3806. Yes, that's on October the 6th. It's a Sunday evening. So right after church, go home, take your 2-hour nap, and then come on down to the Southwest waterfront and join us for a relaxing mix and mingle dinner cruise. And then secondly, one of our very own will be a part of DC Fashion Week. Her name is Vanessa Johnson. She's a designer. She's been on my show before, and I just did not want to leave the show without mentioning Vanessa Johnson. She is featured in the DC Fashion Week, which will be held September the 27th through the 29th. I've had her on my show. She was here last year. She has come on this year, and she's a phenomenal designer. So you don't want to miss this fashion show. Daje Renee, she will have over 20 pieces, and she's local. And again, she's one of my very own. She's been here on the show. She lives here locally in the area. She's been in New York Fashion Week, but right here in your own backyard, go out and support Renee Johnson from Daje Fashions, okay? And the next event that one of our very own that is right here in this area, you can take that down now, Ron. It's a young lady that she's a pastor friend of mine. She's having a 2019 Feast of Praise, Women and Men of Substance. I hosted her here on the show before, Dr. Ajay. She was here, and she just wanted me to mention that it's a free Yes, free invitation. And that's also on October the 6th from 3 to 9. So if you're interested, feel free to contact me here at the show, or feel free to call us and we could get you in touch with her. And it's going to be in Hyattsville, Maryland. Again, you can go on her website. It's called Women and Men of Substance. It's a free event. She's giving out a lot of different literature and material on helping people to be their best self. You know what I'm saying? And that's what our show is all about today. We're going to be having a phenomenal time. We're going to have a great time discussing some possibly some distressors on, we know the holidays are coming up, and a lot of people, the emotions are building. They're getting high. We just got through with back to school for a lot of you parents and families, and you college student, you know, you went through that season, and now we're jumping into the October, the fall. Fall is upon us. The leaves are falling. It's so beautiful outside. But anyway, we're going through those seasons of time, and before you know it, you have Thanksgiving, you have Christmas, and those seasons start causing us to get in touch with our feelings, our emotions. Some of them can be good, some can be not so good, but we want to talk about some of those things, and we want to talk about maybe some tips on how to help you. So that's why you don't want to miss this show, because we have a lot of just some little precursors that's going to help you totally just relax and think about intentionally, you know, live each day on purpose, okay? And we also want to remind you, all of us need to make sure that we go for our annuals, we go for our checkups. But one of the sad things that sometimes we do is we build that stigma once we hear the word mental health. So that's why, you know, in May is Mental Health Month. But for October, they took time out and brought it awareness back to just having a mental health day. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, because during this holiday season and during this season that's coming upon us, we need to sometimes just stand back and take that day and that breather and says, where am I in my life? So you see, lots and lots of things to talk about today, but most of all, our main focus is you living your best life, and how can you be productive in doing that? As well as, you know, we hear a lot that's going on now with people should love, but then you see a lot of hate. You got love, hate, codes of conduct, our attitudes, our behavior. What are the standards? You know, do we have standards in this country? Do we have standards in our cities? Do we have standards in our local government? And more or less, are the standards being raised up in the home? Parents, families, moms, dads, uncles, aunts. Where are our code of conduct, our etiquettes? That's the old-fashioned word we used to hear long ago, but seem like we've gotten away from it. But today, we're going to bring all that back. We're going to try and just fit all of this into our show today. But the good news is we have a special guest here today that she's going to bridge psychology with etiquettes. They call her the etiquette coach. They call her the etiquette therapist. So we want to be ready to hear some of these therapeutic ways that she's going to bring to the table for us. So right now, I don't want you to go anywhere. I'm going to go on a station break, and when I come back, we're going to dive into all those things that I talked about. I gave you a lot of things to think about. But the reason I did that, because I want you to open yourself up to hear more. Because you know what? When we know better, we do better. And that includes us all. And we have to sometimes be reminded and coached into what we need to do, or we need to be pushed a little bit harder or slightly reminded. These are the standards and codes of conduct that we should live our life by, from our cell phones to our email to just every day speaking to our neighbor. It doesn't cost us anything to give somebody a smile throughout the day, or to handshake or embrace someone. It doesn't cost you anything. So those are the conducts and standards in which I would like to talk about today, and hopefully we can get around to and see, what's going on mentally. Why don't we have more of that? Or if we do, how are we a part of making it happen so it can spread? Okay? Love you. God bless you. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
So you like smooth jazz? Great. Horn of Plenty, Harvest Harmony from saxophonist Travis Bridges. Smooth jazz and all the sax you'll ever need. Available at travisbridges.com. 786-487-7338. Horn of Plenty from Travis Bridges. All the sax you'll ever need.
Natasha Paris Saint-Amand was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York, to Haitian immigrants. As a graduate of Temple University School of Education in Philadelphia, Natasha Paris holds a master's degree in counseling psychology and a bachelor's of arts degree in psychology from Baruch College. She has combined her love for counseling individuals who have experienced trauma of all kinds and or suffer from low self-esteem with her trained experience as a beauty consultant and makeup artist. Natasha Paris believes that etiquette coaching is a nice blend of the two worlds.
It is all about your smile, because smiling, it allows people to want to engage with you. And then if that person is not feeling up to par, your smile alone will allow them to want to have a conversation with you.
Natasha Paris offers the need to beautify and refine not only what is on the outside, but what is primarily on the inside.
People want to see your face, they want to see your smile, and they want to hear what you have to say. But if they're focused on your long lashes, the lashes when they go to the nail salon and they offer a deal, you get your nails and your lashes done together. And it's really big and it looks like it's a whole lot. We don't want to do that.
She trains individuals to become confident in the areas of walking, talking, clothing presentation, skin, makeup, professionalism, and fine dining etiquette.
Well, everyone can benefit from etiquette. You're talking about every race, every ethnicity, from 5 to 99. And so don't feel like etiquette training is something that you're beyond. We want people, when they meet you, to see you and to hear you. We don't want people to get distracted by your lashes or your accessories or your colors. We want confident people. Most confident people will close deals a lot faster than those who are not confident. And etiquette training, Freedom Revealed, is all about liberating individuals and making them want to become better people, right? And empowering them to do better.
Hello and welcome back to Qetvlive Show with your host, Mrs. H, and with my special guest co-host, Natasha.
Yes.
How are you, Natasha?
I'm doing so awesome.
You look awesome.
Thank you. That's all God. Let me just say that.
Yes,
that
you
all
look
God.
awesome.
Thank you so much. Glad to be here. Welcome again, guys. Glad to be back.
Yeah, she's back. She's back. She's back. So for some of you who she's maybe a stranger to, we're going to allow her to get caught up a little bit. I just want to just remind you guys to please right now go on your social media and let someone know you're watching QETV Live Show with your host, Miss H, and special guest co-host Natasha Paris. We're going to have an amazing show today because you remember we just right before the break, for some of you who just tuned in, we were talking about the psychological side of what's going on during this time of the year and what's going on in our society and how can we blend that together. And I have an etiquette therapist, let me get that right here, that's going to help guide us. She's going to guide us and share with us some tips and some wisdom on how we can get from point A to point B. Yes. So let's start out first, Natasha. Yes. Please remind my guests who you are, some information about your background, and then we'll jump right on into those de-stressors and those tips.
You are so awesome. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. For those who don't know who I am, my name is Natasha St. Amand, Natasha Paris St. Amand. I am an etiquette therapist. People often ask, like, what is that? Like an etiquette therapist.
Absolutely. Tell us.
Never heard that word or that title or that brand before. But let me just kind of give you some background history, right? So I've lived two different worlds. Sounds crazy, right? But I have always been in the arts as it related to dance and styling and being a model for just a few years, not a whole lot, and being primarily a makeup artist for a very long time and really supporting people as it related to their presentation. I worked with pageant girls. I've worked with so many people as it related to just becoming their best self from a presentation standpoint. I'm originally from Brooklyn, New York, and born to Haitian immigrants. Both of them, my mom and dad, are from Haiti, which is in the Caribbean, right?
Okay.
And my parents came to this country with the hope that they would give us a better education and a better life. And so as I was living this life of being in the arts, I had parents that would say, I don't know what you're doing, but we came to this country to give you an education. So that stuff is always going to be a part-time thing, right? Or they didn't really understand, right? But I also at the same time had a love for understanding the human mind and psychology and working with families and children in need. And so while I was simultaneously in tandem doing this life, right, as an artist, I was also going to school and I was learning about the mind, and I was really doing some good work as it related to providing people with therapy, counseling, things of that nature. And so as a result, a couple of years ago, I'd always, for a long time, almost 15 years, living these two worlds in tandem simultaneously but separate. And a couple of years ago, maybe about 4 years ago, I had a friend of mine who said, you know, you're doing such great work, but why don't you bring it all together?
Right.
And it just didn't make sense to me, but God always reveals what you need at the right time. And I said, that's interesting. I thought about it, but it just always seemed like a foreign concept to me. And so I decided to see how that looked. And what I noticed is that people really received what I was putting forth, right? Because it was about presentation. Right. But what we found in just my work, bringing those two worlds together, was that oftentimes you had people who looked great, right? And they can speak well. But when you really started to talk to them, you realized that there were some serious mental health issues that were happening, whether they were dealing with depression, whether they didn't feel as beautiful as they looked on the outside. And so my goal and what I'm doing now is being able to, you know, building those two worlds, that bridge, right? Having those two worlds come together and supporting people as it relates to getting their life or taking their life to the next level from a presentation perspective. How do they greet people? How do they walk into a room, right? How do they speak, right? And then also understanding all of the nuances as it relates to nonverbal communication, right? But then there's a therapy piece, is emotional triggers. You know,
that's and that's what I want to just go back just a little bit before you go on. That is one of the hidden things that go on every day. Is that outwardly we all look beautiful, but
Yes.
inwardly we're hiding. From your experience, do you have any idea why the double standard? Like, why do we live in that? Like, you were in that double world of making a decision, one over here, one over there. People, and sometimes I've lived in it too, we live in that world where we want to show face,
Right.
but inside, what are some of the reasons why that we tend to do that, think that we can't merge the two?
Okay, so well, oftentimes, in our time of day, right, social media, everything is about presentation. Everything is about what looks beautiful on the outside.
Okay.
From a surface perspective, right? You know, having all of the beautiful, like the nice homes and looking the part, right? And having the great makeup, and the men having the great suits, and, you know, or being able to display a perception of what you believe people want to see.
Okay.
Right? But then you have individuals who in the same realm is dealing with a whole lot, and it's especially within the African American community, the
Yeah.
Asian community, the Latino community, that mental health or having good health, mental health, is taboo. Like, if you have a mental health issue, do not talk about it, right? Just put everything in your clothes, look the part, keep your mouth shut, smile, and everything will go away. But that doesn't happen, right? This is
Okay.
why you see people who are celebrities. They have everything, but then they
Yes.
take their own life, right? And you question, how did that come to be, and what happened?
And that is the big question, that we do that every single time. And now, to be honest, I've gotten to the place I don't say that anymore, because I say it can be. And when you begin to understand that these things can go on in the same world, like you said, that perception,
Sure.
we cover up with clothing, with makeup.
Yes.
So what would you suggest that some of your techniques that we begin to demask? Where do you start?
You start with being honest with yourself.
Oh, I love that.
I mean, it's simple, you know.
Okay.
It's a blessing when you have people around you who have no problem being honest with you, right, about your mess, right? But it is a huge problem when you have people who say, yes, it's okay to be messy. It's okay to be that way, right?
Okay.
So look at your surroundings, but then look at the people who you're surrounding by, right? But more importantly, look at your experiences. What kinds of experiences are you having, right? Are your experiences negative, right? And then start to look at, wait a minute, you're the common denominator in all of these interactions. Okay, what's happening here? Like, what's happening? Is it me?
So just because I move, I didn't leave how I felt on the inside. Going from one city to another city don't change me.
No, it doesn't, right? So you have to first start, and your question was, what exactly is that? How do you identify that? Being honest, writing things down, like as it relates to, you know, how do you feel about the way you look? How do you feel about how you interact with other people? Are there fears associated with it? Are there anxieties? Because what we find oftentimes is that a lot of our fears and anxieties normally stem from childhood. It stems from childhood, because what in my counseling sessions, I will have grown men who are 50, 60 years old crying, sobbing because of something that happened when they were 7.
Wow.
And they held on to it, right? So being honest with yourself, writing those things down, and making a commitment to change those things. And you may ask, how do I do that?
Yes.
You do it. It's a process. It's a process. So everyone has a different treatment plan. Like, everyone has a different way of doing it. But I say, talk about it, write about it, and do something about it.
Yeah, that sounds really
in a nutshell, but it needs to be more detailed, right?
But the thing is, the good news is that it can be done, and we have to start somewhere. And I love the fact that you say start with honesty, because it's only truth, when we face the truth, that we can literally begin to be free of the battle. Because I've always heard in counseling session that making up your mind is 90% of the battle. Once you begin to be honest with yourself, make up your mind and acknowledge those things.
Absolutely.
You know, that form of acknowledgement. So we need to acknowledge where we are. And you may be able to just sit down with someone
Yes.
to find that out.
Right.
So would you suggest a friend, or you suggest someone you don't know, or where do I begin
that's an easy,
to be honest
let
with
me tell
someone?
you, that's an easy one, right? Because friends will give you advice even when you didn't ask for it, okay?
Most certainly.
And they're coming from their own experiences, and they can also be very judgmental, right? Even though they love you to death, they can also offer their own judgments. And also, not just that, they love you so much, sometimes they won't tell you the truth because they don't want to hurt your feelings, right?
Okay.
So what I will often say 100% of the time, not 98% of the time, 100% of the time, go to someone that you don't know, that you feel comfortable with, right? Because of the fact that, especially therapists, we are trained to hear, we're trained to actively listen, and we don't give advice, right? You know, the misperception or misconception is that, you know, okay, I'm looking for someone just to tell me what to do, and I'll just do it, right?
Yeah.
All of the answers that we're looking for is already within ourselves. You know, God has created us in that. God has created us to be so well equipped, right? You know how when you look at the animal kingdom, National Geographic, right? What is it called?
National Geographic.
Oh, okay, right.
You got it right.
Right. When we look at that and we see animals in their natural habitat, everything that they need in order to defend themselves are already within them. Everything down to the shellfish, right? Down to, you know, from the lion, tiger, to everything that they need. And that's the same thing with the human, you know, the human body, the human mind, is that we have everything that we need. And if you're totally connected to the Creator, He gives you answers that you, because of all of the things you've dealt with, has been hidden. And when you finally say, I'm open to receiving what is destined for me, just allow me to release those things so new things can come about.
And you know what, Dad, I'm so glad you said that, because listening to you, your parents wanted you to go to school and get educated. I'm so glad you chose to field of psychology. But your gifts and talents were in those other creative areas. When you look at it, Natasha, I see a blending, because I do believe that without knowing the human mind and human nature and the way people think, it's hard to show people why they need what they need without understanding them. You know, I was just in a meeting this week, and they were having some challenges in our community. And the first thing they wanted to do is attack the behavior of the young people without first finding out the underlying cause of their conduct. And that's why I asked a question about, you know, our code of conducts, our standard. Like, where do we get these standards, these values from? Because if we don't have any standards, or we don't have any morals, or we don't have values, no matter how much you dress up, you're still going to behave and act a certain way. My mom used to always say, you can dress up a pig all you want. He's going to go right back to waddling in that mess that he's in, because he's a pig. But in order to change our mind that we don't, you know, be clean on the outside, and like you says, can have all this prestige, the money, wear the jewelry, the clothes, but mentally we don't have nothing up here to guide us on how to conduct ourselves. So how do we bridge those two, or how do you bridge your clients in guiding them down that path?
Right. Okay. So the path of awareness, right? So that's what it sounds like. You know, I use a lot of analogies and storytelling to really capture what my points are. Very similar to Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz, right? And so what we know about Dorothy and the Wiz, right?
The great odds.
Right. Exactly. Is that she was traveling down a path of, you know, fear and wanting something. But then as she was traveling down this path, she met all of these individuals who, in many regards, exemplified what she already had but didn't know she had. And so I tell people all the time is that traveling down that path of awareness is all about you being able to say, you know, I have some issues. I have some concerns. If I see my pattern is consistently negative, then what do I really want? Do I want to continue down that path, or do I want to change, right? Because what we know is that, what they say, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting different results, right? So you have to eventually, and I tell my clients all the time, I cannot force you to do something that you're not ready to do. You have to want this. You have to be tired. You have to be exhausted. You have to be knocked down sometimes for you to realize, I have enough. I had enough and I can't do this any longer. Please help. When you just open up your mind and your heart to receive help, the universe, God, just hears you and brings all the help that you need in order to support you. So,
wow. You said a mouthful. That was awesome.
I always do.
And I'm looking at, first of all, she says being honest, and we used to use the terminology brutally honest, because sometimes it can be brutal to be honest. And then you talked about the word awareness. My question to you. Does awareness come before honesty, or honesty then awareness?
Well, it can work in tandem. I mean, it can work simultaneously. My opinion is that being aware usually happens it can work simultaneously, but aware tends to happen more so before being honest, right? So you can be aware that you are getting into trouble and that you are, you've been to prison a couple of times, right? You could be, I know I was there. Or I'm aware that, I've been divorced 5 times. I'm aware.
Right.
Because
you're absolutely right.
Aware is more intellectual.
I like that.
Aware is more intellectual, right? Because you can be aware of something. But to finally say there's a correlation with my awareness and saying, okay, I'm aware that this has happened, but am I going to be honest that it has all to do with what I have done?
Yeah, and I think that's what...
Does that make sense?
Yes, it does, because you're absolutely right. We're looking at what I just said. Coming up is this awareness day. Yes. This mental awareness day, even though it's a day and it's been a day for a couple of years, it does not mean that people literally are going to be honest during that time with themselves. No. Because if they continue to go on, October 10th to come around again and again and again. Right. So that awareness starts, but then now honesty has to settle.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. So, and everything as it relates to grief and loss, as it relates to trauma, as it relates to depression, you have to first admit that something is wrong.
Okay.
You have to first admit. And once you admit, that's the first battle, right? So you can be aware of something. You can be aware that you're sad. You can be aware that there are things happening. But are you going to make the decision to say, I'm honest about how I feel? Right. Because, oftentimes we run away from that, right? We run away from being honest with ourselves. Because if we're honest with ourselves, then what it does is it stops us in our tracks. Okay. Then now you have to recalibrate, right? You have to say, okay, well, I used to do this all the time for the past 15 years now. What do I do now? Oh, that's too much mental work.
Yeah.
That's too exhausting. Oh, gosh, now I have to figure it out. I don't want to do that. I'm too busy.
Breathe. That's when we got to breathe.
Right. I'm too busy to do this work. Yes. I'll get to it next time. But then something happens again. Right?
No, life happens.
Life happens, but if you keep doing the same thing, you're going to get the same results. So when do you finally say, enough, and I'm ready to change? When do you finally say that?
So until we have that moment, enough is enough, that aha moment.
Yes, it has to come. It's very similar to someone who's addicted to drug and alcohol, right? Because the family can have an intervention. You've seen it on television, or some people may have experienced it in their own personal life with family members, where they have a whole intervention. Everyone comes together and they're like, we are so sad, we are so frustrated, we're so angry, we love you, but your behavior is not working. And we're going to send you to the hospital, and we're going to have you go into an inpatient facility for 30 days, if not 60 months. I mean, 6 months. 6 months. The person's like, okay, I love you, I'm going to do it. but I'm only doing it because you told me to. But then as soon as they get out of that facility, guess what they end up going back and doing? They end up using.
Thing.
I've heard of stories, I've seen where they literally start using as soon as they leave that facility because they themselves did not make that decision to change. Everyone else wanted them to change. Everyone else. And it was only when they made that decision that they said, I am tired.
So the power of your own free choice is so awesome. You know, and that brings us to this. Now, you're called the etiquette therapist.
Yes.
Why do we need etiquettes? Explain what etiquette is, because when I was growing up, we always thought, I'm be honest, coming from our, Black African American neighborhood, we was like, bump that. I want to use, walk, talk any kind of way I want to.
Absolutely.
And it's acceptable. And if you can't accept who I am, then shame on you, because you're judging me. Right. So when we would hear the word etiquette, we thought it was something they did and not us do.
Sure.
So, but it wasn't until you go somewhere and you get embarrassed by something you have said, something you've done out of order, and someone correct you. And I've had a lot of older adults correct me when I was a teenager, and I loved it because I wanted to learn, I wanted to grow.
Sure.
But then we go right back, like you says, to picking up those bad behaviors. How do you merge the two together to help people define those standards and those codes and the conducts and our relation as it relates to etiquettes? How is that bridge with psychology?
Okay, so that is one of the most frequently asked questions on my website, as well as just face to face. Like, why is it necessary?
Right.
And I say to individuals, I'll give them the analogy of playing football. Right. If you want to play football, you have to know the rules. Because if you don't know the rules with any sport, just using football as an example, if you don't know the rules, guess what happens? You get disqualified.
Right.
You're not able to move ahead and score, right? Or you or you just can't play, right? And so this is when it comes to the game of life, right? Because it is a game, and I hate to put it that way, right? People say, I don't want to be played, or people are playing me, or whatever that is, right? You are part of this chess game.
Whether we like it or not.
Whether we like it or not. So if you want to move your life to the next level, so if you want to just stay home and be a hermit for the rest of your life and not have any interaction, then you can have no etiquette at all. Yeah. But if you are wanting to take your life to the next level, as it relates to employment, as it relates to being able to move in circles that you were not totally familiar with, right? Wanting to feel comfortable, going to a restaurant, knowing how to hold a fork and knife, knowing what the glass is, which glass do you pick up when you're at a banquet or a black tie affair, or even just literally, I'm working with sports athletes right now. And what we are realizing is that oftentimes athletes, they look at how talented they are from a, sports perspective, right? But what we find is that they cannot function outside of the field. They cannot function to the point where actually being able to have a conversation. And so I say you have to know the rules of engagement in order to engage. It is just very simple. You have to know how to be able to walk into a room. And this is where the psychology piece is, because people will say to me, well, how do I walk into a room? Should I just walk like a soldier? I said, no, it actually starts right here. It's how you feel. It's how you feel when you walk into a room. It is not because if you feel like you cannot command the room, or if you feel like all these people are watching me and they're judging me, you're going to walk in like a flower that has been, wilted, and you're walking in with no confidence. But if you walk into a room like, okay, I may just be the lowest person on the tandem pole, right? But I'm walking in here as though I own the company. People feel that. And it starts here. And that's where increased self-esteem comes along. This is the psychology aspect of it. Okay. So I always say know the rules of engagement and be able to code switch.
Okay, tell us what
code switching is. Okay, so I love to talk about this. Okay, code switching is really when you're being able, as simple as shaking someone's hand, right? So I have individuals who, especially within the African American community, especially men, they want to give the brother love, right? They want to give the dap, and the hug.
Oh, okay. They can't do that?
When you're meeting someone for the very first time, even though he's African American.
So you got to know when to switch it.
Exactly.
Click it on and click it off. Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
And I've given the example of, I've said in some of my workshops, most of my workshops, and I have a workshop coming up for you guys. I'm going to tell you about that. But as it relates to if President Obama were to walk into the room, would you give him the brother man, love, black love handshake immediately off the break?
You got 50-50 on that. Some of them would say, yep, they would, and the other would go, absolutely not. So we're going to be talking to the 50 that would say no.
Yes, the 50 that would say no. I say the person that you're shaking their hand, you let them initiate.
Oh, okay.
Don't automatically assume because he's a black man.
That's true.
That he is going to give you that handshake.
Because I get that a lot, and I sometimes it turns me off with someone that don't know me, especially my Caucasians, female counterparts. When they see me, they go, what's up, sister? Or they will say, girlfriend. I'm not your girlfriend. I don't know you. So they think that is protocol because of who I am. Right. So how do you handle that tactfully? Because it really turns me off.
Okay, so that's another question that has been asked. You don't want to be rude about it, right? You definitely don't want to be rude.
Sorry, I have been.
Yeah,
sometimes.
I'm sure, right? But if someone were to say that to you, you would say, well, thank you so very much, ma'am. You switch it up from a professional. When they say it personal, you switch it up and you just become very professional. It gives them the nuances, the nonverbal. She's not being very personable, and she doesn't receive it very well.
Okay.
As opposed to saying, why did you say that? I don't like that.
That was me.
Why did
so
you
we
say
need to do some rehearsals on the next time we come.
Oh, yes,
we're going to have a table, and we're going to do some etiquette.
Yes,
because,
I would love that.
I like that because initially that's how I would answer. Yeah. And I thought that was defending myself because I'm thinking, okay, by now you should know not to do that.
Right.
And it's like there's always an excuse to give them a reason to do it if we don't step forward and let them know. But you're absolutely right. That Michelle Obama motto, when they go low, we go high.
Right.
And I think that we need to give people the benefit of the doubt. Everyone don't realize that it's embarrassing or it's not etiquette training enough where you say the right thing. So we need to give people the benefit of the doubt.
Absolutely, because some people are coming from a very good place. They just, really from the very beginning, they want to be very personable. Yeah. They may have their own issues as it relates to race, and they may want to fit in pretty quickly without you assuming that they're one of the others who are ignorant and who, so it may be coming from a good place and not necessarily demeaning, but it comes across as demeaning, and they don't often know that, or sometimes they do and they do it on purpose. Who knows? But what you do is you go high and you just say, it's a pleasure to meet you, Miss.
Yeah. What did you say your name was?
And just and completely turn it around. And they get it. Unless they have some other developmental issues going on.
So would you say, because definitely I want to continue this conversation because I'm very, very much interested in what is going on in our society today, the protocol, because our standards has plummeted.
Yes.
And it starts from the head. I'm not going to get into that debate, but it has started from the head and is filtering down, and standards are being lowered. People conduct, people attitude, people's social norms. There's just like unlimited amount of reaction, and it's causing those who had good manners or had great etiquettes begin to say, what's the use? Because if you don't play their game, you won't be in the game of life. Would you say that no matter what, the standard should remain the standard?
Let me say this. I say this often to my children. Hello, Devin and Selah, my beautiful angels. I say to them all the time, things that you do not like in the world, you be the change that you want to see.
Okay.
Because if you are falling in line with the standard, falling in line with what everyone else is doing, you don't make a difference, right? If you see things that are happening in the world, you say something, you do something, right? And I often, when someone holds the door for me, I praise them for it. Because when you praise, you praise someone, then they'll do it more often.
Right.
Or when someone, says your name properly, or like my last name, Saint Armand, I often get that, said incorrectly. Or when someone, gives you great eye contact and they have a great firm handshake, which I have to teach you how to shake someone's hand, because 60% of people, I believe, are shaking people's hands incorrectly.
Okay, we're gonna have topic. A table, and that's gonna be a whole new topic the next time.
I would love that. I would love that. But
wow.
But it's about doing the right thing, going high when people go low. Right? When I had this individual who, I was driving and he became very irate because I was in the crosswalk. Right, because I was driving, and then the light.
You were the pedestrian?
No, I was the driver.
Oh, you were the driver in the crosswalk.
Right, and it was and I couldn't move back. And
I see.
Because
you're
when you're about the light, and then there's traffic, and then you're like, oh gosh, light turned, you can't go, but you sure enough cannot move backwards because there's another car, and so there's still a little bit of,
Oh, so the pedestrian was a little annoyed.
Right.
Okay.
And the person was really nasty. Very nasty. And one of the things that, I said, of course it takes you off guard. I said, I said to the people that were about to cross, I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, and they were like, okay, no problem. But there was always one. And he became very nasty. And in order to control my emotional trigger, right, because all of Brooklyn, I'm from Brooklyn, wants to come out, right? I said, God bless you. I know it's hard, but God bless you.
I think that is a good default because I have used that hundreds of times in order to stay calm. God bless you. And I think that God shines on that because that keeps us from cursing.
Yes.
You bless instead of curse.
Yes.
So I like that. And I would say to you all, use that as a default. If you don't have anything good to say, don't say anything at all. But if you want to say something good and you don't have anything, God bless you works every single time.
It does. It does.
And that has helped me. The other thing I was going to ask you about is we talked about the etiquettes. We now got to take it over into the phone conversation, email, our social media. The etiquettes and the manners and the code of conduct, the standards are really flowing over in every aspect of our lives. And I see sometimes emails that I get that if a person said what they wrote, it could literally start a war. So are there etiquettes when it comes to that?
Writing emails? Yeah. First thing is, do not write all your letters in caps.
You're talking about that side of it. So even the
sounds like
grammatically side of it.
Oh, yes. Honestly, there are people who just cannot spell, but there's lots of spell check that's already.
But what about if you're just using all the little 3-letter words that you're supposed to?
No. Okay, so texting, I've seen it as well, where they're using texting verbiage for emails. Writing, instead of writing Y-O-U, they write just the letter U, right? Or, TY, thank you. Or, just.
So we just got to switch the hats. What's the word you just used?
Code switch.
Code switch when we are doing that, right?
Right, because texting is meant for quick and a hurry.
Quick,
so
okay.
that's why the
Gotcha.
verbiage, the letters, everything is shortened. But in an email, you have more time to write out your emails and read and proofread it before sending it, right? So I see it often with millennials, right? They don't, everything is quick and a hurry, and so even their emails and just how they conduct when it comes to employment, there's this thing called ghosting. I'm not sure if you're familiar with ghosting, where you just don't show up to work. Like you just told them that you have resigned, and they're looking for you, and you're just like, and they'll see you on Facebook or Instagram at your new job. What? Like, how does that
Now, those are the kind of codes that I'm at, standards that I'm saying that our generation would have never done.
Right.
So it's becoming more and more acceptable, and that's
It's not acceptable.
And that's what I was going to ask you.
It's not
What's
acceptable.
the difference between borderline, acceptable, good, and non-acceptable? Because all I hear now is people saying, well, that's just who I am. You accept it or not. And so that's why I said the standards have been lowered, because in some people's world that is acceptable. It's like, I had enough. I quit. I'm leaving. I'm done. Yeah. And it's like no etiquettes at all, no 2 weeks notice, no thank you for what you've done, or a business deal like, I'm sorry I can't go with you, so give me a warning. Everything is like, too bad. So that's why it says, what is acceptable and not acceptable when it comes to business etiquettes?
Rude.
Oh, that's called rude.
That's just rude.
That's just rude.
It's rude. But
did you hear that? She said it.
It's just rude. Whatever is harsh, crass, rude. Like, because remember, I always tell people this all the time. Put yourself in the person's shoes. Put yourself in the person's shoes. Empathy is lost, I think, in society. People they do and say whatever to other people, and they don't like it. I mean, the person on the receiving end doesn't like it. The person who's actually delivering the message don't see anything wrong with it. Right. But it's only when it happens to them. So, and I say this in my workshops, be very cognizant of how you treat people. From employers to a homeless person on the street, right? Because levels of empathy is something that, yes, you're born with, but you can also develop. Because if you were to put yourself in the person's shoes, how would you feel if you owned a corporation, if you owned a company, and the person that you've employed just didn't show up to work that day with no notification? Right? So this is what, and even I speak to corporate leaders about this as well, is, you have to be what you are expecting. If you're coming to work looking like you just woke up, understand that your staff will do the same thing. Wow. If you're cursing at your staff.
That's another level I'm hearing.
Cursing at your staff, expect that they may curse back at you because they see it as acceptable.
Exactly. We have a lot of young CEOs now, and that's their level of language. Like, I was in an Uber last night. Literally, he played curse rap music about 10 minutes, and after a while, I was sitting back there saying, say something, not say something.
Oh, you say something.
Because my niece was in the car. My great niece was in the car, 11 years old. So I finally said to him, sir, I don't mean any harm, but I am not pleased with the level of music you're playing, because it has words that I do not want my niece. Actually, it was for me too, but I used my niece. And he didn't turn it off until he got out the car.
Oh, wow.
It's like, do you now just send in a bad review? Because they're going to go on and do it again. That is not the first time. Obviously, he felt that it's my car, I can do it.
And
but those are the things. Yes, an Uber driver. And I didn't like it. And I said to myself, this is the standard. And he was young. He had the man bun and everything, so I knew. I knew he was young. He was a foreigner, and He said he had just started Uber. So that was one of the benefits that I was trying to be polite, because he let us know when he got in the car that he had just started. So it's those kind of things that I'm beginning to see, Natasha, that I'm really now want to have these debates on the show and talk about, because, time is coming to a close and I want you to get this in. But I want to...
Can I address what you said?
Yes, address that and then tell everyone about your card, because me now, I'm having those moments because I'm having these kind of conversations everywhere I go, and I'm beginning to realize I need more training from Natasha, because she's got it from the business side, the family side, the professional side. Every walk of life, her etiquette, I see now why you're the etiquette therapist, because she can help you from every arena. So I personally need to get in touch with her, because I'm meeting these people and it's like, God, why are you letting me see these people every day?
Right.
But we're coming across them. So yes, address that issue.
Okay, so I have on 2 instances. Okay, so what I often do is I applaud you for saying something. But what I would have asked you to have done, even taking it a step further, is saying, I'm okay right now, let me out. Because the person who is delivering the message or responding in a way that is unsuitable, unacceptable, unprofessional, needs to receive what the impact of that in some regard. So you saying to him, okay, as soon as you walked in the car, sat in the car, you should have said something to him. Can you turn the music down? Because I'm a customer. If he did not receive that, then you should have said, sir, drop me off right at this corner. I'm getting out. Oh, this is not, I'm getting out right now. And you cancel that, and you call another Uber vehicle, right? And I've been in restaurants just as much as we give compliments. It's so vital for you to say something in a professional manner. I went to a spa yesterday, and the woman at the receptionist, she was very rude. And I said to her, your behavior is very rude. And I said, customer service is key. This is not how you're supposed to respond to me asking you a question. Just letting you know. And and especially if you are a customer.
Right.
Okay. There was another incident with a young man. I was actually going into my vehicle. He was at a red light. He was playing the most obscene music.
Yeah.
And it was something suck my, and it didn't have the bleep. It actually said the word.
Yeah.
And so I, just being who I am, I turned and I looked in his vehicle, and there was a baby, a little girl, must have been 2, sitting in the back seat in her car seat. And I said, I wouldn't ask anyone else to do it, but I said in a very comedic way, I said, oh my goodness. I said, because I'm animated. Oh my goodness, and I said, and there's a little girl in the back seat? She's hearing this, so you're saying it's okay for her to do that? He was like, oh, ma'am, okay, I'm going to turn that.
See.
But somebody would have just talked about him and not told him anything. And he was like, okay. And he drove off, turned to me. You could tell he quickly turned it off. But I say this all to say that people, sometimes it requires someone to say something, but it's all in your tactic. It's all in how you say it. If you're nasty, they won't receive it. I've seen girls who are walking down the street in D.C. They must be 11. They must have been between the age of 12 and 14. They were smoking marijuana and just walking down the street. And I said to them, oh my goodness. I said, you girls are beautiful. And they had makeup on. I said, do you know that your skin is not going to last very long that way? You're going to lose that radiance.
Oh.
I said, you girls are just too beautiful, smoking cigarettes and doing all that extra stuff. And they were like, okay. I'm sure they continued, but
it'll stick. It's a seed. So
yeah, you're just beautiful.
You see, those are seeds.
Yeah, absolutely.
I like that.
So that's just a tidbit.
Yeah,
some of what I do is, based on my experiences, right? But
we got to come back and we're going to do
Yes.
some more of this.
Yes.
Tell us about how to find you
Oh,
because
my
you got
goodness.
so much to offer. And
yes,
I'm
I'm actually hosting. I'm going to be doing a DMV tour.
Oh, I love it.
A free event.
Really?
Free event. So the first one is October 5th. This one is going to be in Woodbridge. I'm actually scheduling the one in Alexandria, Crystal City in Virginia. And then I'm going to be scheduling one in DC. And then I'm going to be scheduling one in Maryland.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
So free events, how to stand out from the rest. Basically, it's called Ready, Set, Live.
I love it.
Ready,
I told
Set,
you.
Live. Ready, Set, Live. It's free events, 50 seats. This already is selling out. It's on
So how do we go?
Eventbrite. It's just go onto your Eventbrite.
Okay.
And just type in how to stand out from the rest. Right?
Okay. So you heard it from here from QETV Live Show with your host, Miss H, and with my special guest co-host, Natasha Paris St. Amand. I want you to go to Eventbrite and look up how to stand out from the rest. You deserve to stand out.
Yes, if you're in the Woodbridge, Fairfax area, it's a free event. It's on a Saturday at 1 o'clock. It's an hour and a half of not punching, but like information that punches at you that makes you say, I'm going to grab this,
Yes.
I'm going to go, and I'm going to take my life to the next level.
Great. So hope you can attend. She's going to have more than one session.
Yes.
So make sure you sign up. Like she says, the seats are limited.
It's free.
And it's free. We love free.
Yes.
So thank
Free
you
99.
again.
I always say free 99.
Thank you for watching QETV Live. Have a great rest of the day. Love you.
Thank you.